don't worry, that wasn't actually a mistake. The tech team aren't in trouble. The truth is, we can all instinctively sense when something is out of tune. I'm sure you all just felt it there. It's human nature. And the thing is, right now, our whole world is out of tune. We have created dissonance in the very living systems we are part of. Now, imagine a world that sounds more like this. Feels a little bit different, doesn't it? It calms me down anyway, because you know what? It's kind of scary up here. This talk is about how music is retuning our relationship with nature and what becomes possible when we do. I spent a decade of my life deep in the heart of international climate policy. I was in Paris and I was convinced we had the tools, we had the time, and we had the solutions. Back in 2015, I remember the hope I felt the night the Paris Climate Agreement was signed. Nearly every nation on this planet agreeing to act together. I was surrounded by brilliant minds who were all dedicated to change-making. But in time, the passion that had brought me there, I just wasn't seeing around the negotiation tables. Progressive policies kept falling short in the public sphere, and something began to crack in me. I watched more politicians cry in karaoke bars than in the climate negotiations. Music did what policy couldn't. It helped them feel. Apparently, Wonderwall hits harder than rising sea levels. And if we can't feel something, how can any of us possibly care? Looking back, every time I was lost, it was always music that brought me home. At 10, I was uprooted from a vibrant life in London and dropped into a tiny village in the middle of nowhere in rural Scotland. I was devastated. I locked myself in my room, clutching my tear-soaked Walkman, Spice Girls on repeat, holding on to the sound I knew as home. But in time, I heard fiddles drifting out of the local village pub. Ceilidhs and dancing and traditional Scottish folk songs carrying the story of the land and the law of this new home. It wasn't quite Spice Girls, it was more Ode to a Sheep, but I got there in the end. Music, it didn't just soothe me, it attuned me to the natural world around me. And that uprooting was actually a rerouting, and it sparked a lifelong love of nature. But that is not everyone's experience. And whether you care for nature or you simply don't, no judgment, we all depend on clean water, on clean air, on food on our table. Nature is universal, yet it's barely valued in modern society. The Amazon corporation has been valued in the trillions. The Amazon rainforest, one of the lungs of our planet, has almost no economic value until it's owned, extracted from, or destroyed. And that was what was reflected around the policy negotiations I witnessed. Air, water, soil, animals. Mother Nature had no seat at the table. And that was kind of awkward considering she was hosting us all. Music is perhaps one of our oldest technologies, connecting us to our emotions, to each other, and to our values. The suffragettes, they chanted together until their right to vote was won. Civil rights songs turned protest into policy, and across history, music has shaped change. I was there, trapped in this climate policy bubble, completely disillusioned, wondering if music has united us in our most divided times, why not now, and why not for the planet? There I was. Then I started running along a canal in East London, and one day a friend stopped me in my tracks, telling me that Brian Eno one of the founders, pioneers of ambient music, a man who has shaped all of our musical journeys, whether we know it or not, was working on something that bridged music and planet. Mic drop. They say don't meet your heroes. I say choose them wisely, because when we sat down, I realized that Brian already understood what it had taken me a decade in climate policy to learn. Culture shifts, policy follows. Music, it doesn't just move hearts, it moves economies. And it's for that reason that the Foundation Earth Percent was born, to channel that immense power of music back into nature. And the idea is disarmingly simple. Music, it already works in percentages, collaborators each getting a cut of the royalties. So we created a cut for Mother Earth, which is about time considering she's been composing for what, 4.6 billion years. This is a way for musicians and music companies to all pledge a percentage of their income back to the earth via songwriting, recording, live. And that pot of money is governed by an independent advisory panel who redistribute it directly to frontline climate and nature solutions. It's a way for anyone in music to embed the earth as a stakeholder, a collaborator, and a beneficiary in anything they do. And you know what? Something magical happens along the way. Now, 350 or more musicians are all giving nature a seat at their table. And they realize they're not alone. They're part of something much, much bigger, a movement that moves people. But we didn't stop there. We wanted something way more radical. So we asked, what if nature wasn't just something music gave back to? But what if nature was recognized within music's economic system? So, through the Sounds Right initiative, a multi-sector partnership led by the Museum of the United Nations, in collaboration with Spotify, we made nature an artist, officially. Now, nature generates royalties from her own sounds, just like any other artist. And today, 30 million people are already listening to nature worldwide on all major streaming platforms. Nature is low maintenance, no drama, green rider, but if you get on her wrong side, she will whip up a storm. Sometimes nature releases tracks alone, field recordings of forests, of oceans, and of birdsong. And sometimes artists from all around the world collaborate with nature, blending nature's sounds into compositions. And when a track is released, nature is credited as a co-artist, just like any other musician. Guess what? You are all part of it. You can all now search for Nature the Artist on any major streaming platform, and your listening becomes part of the repair. This isn't symbolic, it's a system shift. I remember the first time I collaborated with nature. It was on a beach during the United Nations Ocean Summit. I was with a dear friend and a music producer, Auntie Flo, microphones in the water, salt on our skin, recording the sounds of waves. That night, those same wave sounds were played to some of the policymakers I sat beside in Paris 10 years before. This time there were no spreadsheets, just sound. And I watched some of them cry. Just like in the karaoke bars. Perhaps they finally felt in their veins what was at stake. The thing is, music has always helped us feel, but now it's helping us protect. So, what happens if we take this blueprint and apply it to a place? Take Ibiza, the global heartbeat of electronic music, a place loved so fiercely and is changing so fast. For decades, artists have been coming here not just for the dance floors, but for the turquoise waters, to chase sunsets, for nature, the inspiration behind the sound. What if every club night, every festival, every baseline gave back to the land it rises from? This island's music economy generates hundreds of millions of euros every year. Just 1% of that could help restore ancient seagrass meadows, revive ancient water systems, empower local communities with renewables, or support local regenerative farming. Imagine Ibiza not just as a music mecca, but as a global lighthouse of sustainability, a place the whole world looks to see how culture can care. Now, scale that globally. By 2030, the music industry is projected to generate $130 billion. Suddenly, music becomes more than just expression. It becomes planetary repair. Because there is no music without nature. There are no parties without nature. There's no sound without nature. And that extends into every aspect of our lives. No fashion without nature, no food without nature, no football without nature. My hope is simple. What we have done with music becomes a blueprint for all industries. Imagine it rippling out across culture, the World Cup, the Oscars, the Super Bowl, every industry that moves us, choosing to value nature as a stakeholder, giving nature a seat at the table. Because here is what we are remembering. We evolved as living ecosystems. When our world is out of tune, we feel it because we are nature. So, the next time music moves you, notice that feeling. It's your own internal tuning fork. Let it ripple outward into the cultures that you can shape. Because when culture shifts, policy follows. We don't need to invent a new world, but together we can tune back into this one. Thank you.